All right, everybody, we're going to get going. Thank you for being here to our info session on our prototyping hardware accelerator. We'll introduce ourselves in a second. I'm Ken Rother. I'm the director here at Rev, and we look forward to. We'll spend a few minutes chatting, and then we'll take some questions that you might have about our program. So, why don't we introduce the team? First of all, as I said, I'm Ken Rother. I'm both faculty at Cornell and staff here at Rev, where I run the incubator, and I have a big interest in hardware entrepreneurship. And before being involved with Cornell, I was an entrepreneur with a couple of successful exits under my belt. Deanna?
Hey everyone, I'm Deanna. I'm the assistant director of our hardware program, so I help out more on the technical front. My background is mechanical engineering and product design, so I've worked on consumer products, industrial products, basically all kinds of products. Really like working on a variety of different things, so this is a great program for me. So I'd be the point person for more of the technical work throughout the program, and happy to field any questions.
Oops, I went backwards. Hang on. Maya, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Maya Minter. I help to support kind of the program and operations. So working closely with Ken and Deanna on just making sure all things are on track for the program. And then I also work closely with the teams to make sure that they're, have the information they need to feel successful in the program. So I do less kind of the technical and more of the kind of logistical, but happy to see everyone here.
Awesome. So, every year we have a team of folks who are here to help the teams that get into the program, and some of those folks are in this picture from previous years. So we typically hire hardware engineers, mechanical, electrical engineers, sometimes some design folk who come and work for us for the summer, and their job is to help you learn how to do prototyping with you, do design work, help you learn how to operate the machines, how to keep everybody safe. But they're here to help you move along. We also often collaborate with other Cornell faculty in that process. We have an experienced group of mentors who are called entrepreneurs in residence. Every team that comes to the program works with an entrepreneur in residence, and then we sometimes also have some external technical mentors. So we try and provide a lot of support to the teams that get into the program to help them move along. So our philosophy for this program, and our program has been around, I think we're going to our 10th summer of it, is really to look at the technology and the business simultaneously. So on the business side, we do things like customer discovery to understand what is the business model that would be required to bring your idea to life and in a viable business. And at the same time, we look at the technology to understand what is possible, what makes sense to do, what would be cost effective, what would actually meet the customer's needs, most importantly. And our job is to support you and help you do, two things: validate your business model and make the changes needed. And most of our companies sort of rethink what model they're going to use when they come in, and help you prototype and iterate and prototype some more as you work through and develop your idea. So the program's been around since 2014. We've had 94 teams to date, so this year we'll clear 100 for sure. Actually, more than this much has been raised. I'll have to get this number updated. Some of the teams of note over the years that have come through this, one which is down in Austin, which is now called Talios, was MadeBot. They make an industrial cleaning robot for hotels. Spectrums, which makes a music device, went on to be acquired by Sphero, an ed tech company. And at the far right, one of our newer success stories, Revert, make smart power adapters, if you will, mostly for commercial applications to help people save electricity, basically, for things that are plugged in and on most of the time that don't need to be on most of the time. Try and sort those things out. So we've had a number along the way. So what are the goals of the program? Like, what should you hope to get out of this? So one of them is like understanding the business model, and most importantly, who is your beachhead customer and what benefit are they looking for? Not what are the features of your product, but what are the benefits your beachhead segment is looking for? We're going to do a lot of prototyping, things what we call looks like prototype, works like prototype, and ultimately an integrated prototype that you'll be able to demonstrate the value of your concept. And we're going to help you build some materials so that you have the essence of a start of a marketing campaign. What that looks like depends, how far along you are. So we have a suite of programs that start early with problem identification and research. You've probably done a lot of those things. And our first program, our in-residence 10-week summer program, is our prototyping program. And you can sort of see on the left the stages we focus on, and on the right, what that means from a business perspective. Companies that successfully complete prototyping and feel there's an opportunity that makes sense will move into the proto-factoring program, where they're really going to develop a proper full engineering prototype, that they may be able to raise funding against and start even a pre-sales campaign. And then ultimately, we have a manufacturing program that says, okay, now that you know exactly what you want to make, let's go through the steps so it can be made at scale, at quality. Many of the teams, we take teams extremely early in the process. And because we take teams so early in the process, they don't have to be a company yet. Many teams, when they get to the end of prototyping phase, that is where it ends for them. They realize, you know what, I've learned a lot, but this isn't the thing that's going to make sense to go forward. And that's okay. That's totally cool. And then some, continue on into these other programs. We have a number of tracks to our programs. Climate tech, so things that support decarbonization is a big focus of ours. Ag tech, things that focus on both the farm, the processing that happens on and off the farm, equipment to help the farmer, equipment to help processors, and so forth. So ag tech. This year we've added a new med tech track, so we're going to look at both therapeutic and diagnostic devices, as well as potential ed tech devices in the medical space directly. And then we have like our classic track, our open track, for other concepts. Each of the tracks, a lot of the programming is very similar, and then there are specific, elements to the programming for each one. The climate tech track is for devices that aim to decarbonize the economy. So we're looking to alternate ways of producing energy, storing energy, requiring less energy, anything around that area. There's lots of other ways to decarbonize the economy, but that's really a big focus here in New York State, is decarbonizing the economy. So that's the main focus of our climate tech track. Here's some of the things we're going to do that are specific. You got to understand greenhouse gas accounting, and there's a lot of people who kind of play games here with numbers. So we're gonna have some sessions on how to do that. Pitching and getting funding for climate tech can be quite different because of big societal issues. One of the things you need to think about when you're doing especially stuff on climate is both sustainability and what's called life cycle analysis. Like, what's the overall carbon footprint of this product? What's the overall life of this product? So these are some of the things we would do. And the stipend, I'm going to talk about stipends at the end, but I'll mention for each track, the stipend available is a maximum of $2,000. So for each track, we will get into some numbers. The ag tech track is for hardware devices that improve crop production, farming practices, everything you see here. Pretty broad. And again, here are some of the things that we do. So this is a track that is sponsored by the EDA through a grant called University Sensors. So that's where we get some of the funding. We're a nonprofit, so we go and raise money to do these programs. Here are some of the things we're going to focus on in that program to help you understand how you might fit in. We're going to also visit some facilities so you can see local farms, greenhouses, some of the challenges they are encountering and who you might work with, and some of the ways that these kind of programs are funded. projects are funded, and again, there's a stipend available of up to $2,000. The MedTech track is for both therapeutic and diagnostic devices, or devices that improve overall human health and well-being. This is a new track for us. This is also supported by a different grant by the EDA, a grant called Build to Scale. It's a new grant for us. We're going to work closely with the folks at Weill Cornell on this one. So there'll be some field trips to understand what does that world look like. There'll be some workshops specifically on things like regulatory pathway. If a medical device is, depending on the regulatory chain that it's in, what do you need to know? And bringing a medical device out and getting it manufactured can be quite different. And there's a stipend available here. And then finally, the classic track is kind of for everything else that we think we can help with. And here's some of the stuff we cover there, and there's a stipend there also. And in the track, we've had everything from wearables, social good, femtech, edtech, all sorts of ideas that kind of fit into this area. So one thing for all of our tracks, there needs to be a physical product. So this is not a software accelerator. There needs to be hardware. Doesn't have to be smart hardware. We've had many teams where it's just material science. We need to make sure we can help you. But many of the things coming in are some version of smart. Now, there might be software also. There might be a UI. There might be an app. There might be a website. There might be a database. But there needs to be a physical product. So applying to the tracks. We're going to share with you a link on how you can apply. When you submit your application for that track, you pick the one you feel is the most appropriate for your technology or product. Most teams, as long as your application looks reasonable, we're going to interview you. And if you're in the wrong track, we will let you know and say, hey, actually you're more of ag tech or climate tech or whatever. So take your best guess at it, but don't worry if you get it wrong, so to speak. That's something we'll help with. You actually might be in multiple tracks. You're only entitled to one stipend, but there are many climate tech innovations that are also ag innovations and vice versa. So it's possible that you'll sort of fit into multiple streams. Each team is only eligible for one stipend. Almost all of the workshops hosted at Rev are open to teams regardless of track. But so we're going to do a lot of things here, but when we do visits, like either to a greenhouse or to a medical laboratory, there's limited space. So priority goes to the teams in that track. And then there's usually room, for a few other people. Here's the structure of the program. It's a 10-week program and starts the day after Memorial Day. It's in residence in Ithaca. And we have sort of 5 elements to it. There's a first week is what we call boot camp, where we do a lot of skill building, shop training, business model canvas training, and so forth. And then we go through a series of sprints. And in fact, there are 4 sprints now that cover these 3 concepts. Every 2 weeks, there's a sprint, and each sprint ends in a design review. And then in the last week, we actually build up towards a demo day. So we help everyone with their pitch deck and practice pitching and so forth. This is a program where you're building stuff. So every day almost there's purchasing of stuff going on that you need. And everyone has 24/7 access to the facility here at Rev, where we have a significant prototyping shop. Every week there are presentations. Most of those presentations are squished into the Monday and Tuesday timeframe. There are some other times, everyone, as I said, gets assigned an EIR, an entrepreneur in residence. There are meetings with the technical teams to make sure you're on track and moving in the right direction. As I said, there are workshops that are specific to the track that you're in. So a lot goes on over this 10-week period, and this is not a Zoom eligible program. The expectation is you're going to be here to do this. So here's what the calendar looks like. And we don't do anything the week of July 4th. You're more than welcome to be here and use the space. There's no formal programming the week of July the 4th. Here's what traditionally our kickoff week looks like. The 4 days of our kickoff week, the day after Memorial Day. But basically, want to get everyone sort of up to speed. getting the skills they need to kind of move forward. And then as we go through each of the sprints, you're really building something of successive fidelity, both working on your business model by talking to people, identifying assumptions and hypotheses in your business model, and you're looking at the technical challenges to move your product along. And each of these sprints sort of goes towards a better and better prototype. So you need to do things like nail your product and market specifications before you know what to make. That's going to be based on what you hear from your customer. So that earliest sprint, and every sprint after that ends in a prototype. And then each one sort of brings more fidelity, more direction to where you're going, and hopefully lets you have something that you can interact with a customer on, interact with a user, and get some feedback along the way. And then there are, specific workshops along the way that sort of relate to the sprint that you're in. So I'm just sort of scrolling through. These are the ones we'll share this deck. This is sort of how the program runs. But the whole idea is, you're doing stuff really quick. Every 2 weeks, a new design, a new design, a new design, getting things out the door. Now, different teams come into this program at different stages, and what that means for each team is something we work with you as things go. But you're trying to get to a really polished, non-engineering prototype, which is something which is a pre-production model, but a really polished prototype that you can put in customers' hands and they can interact with, and you can prove to yourself what I call proof of value, that the customer can derive the value that you're hoping they can derive from your product. And then finally, we end with a pitch night, and it's a lot of fun. It's a big event here at Rev. We usually got 125 to 150 people of all sorts, and you never know who's going to be in the room, but it's really the first time a lot of folks are talking about their idea. There's expectations, so you're going to be part of this. This doesn't cost anything. As a matter of fact, as I said, every team that comes into this program can get a stipend, but there are expectations. There are expectations you're going to be in person a certain number of hours a week. You're going to be in all the sessions. You're going to take all of the meetings. You're going to do the interviews. You're going to do all the assignments. Why are all these things? Well, we think, one, these are the things you need to do to move your idea along. If these aren't the things you want to do, this isn't the program for you. We've done this a lot. We think these are the things you need to do to move your idea along. And that's what we went to get funding for. So we don't charge you. We're a nonprofit. We raise money. This is what we told our funders we will do, because this is our experience and how we move folks along. So we need all of these things done, because that turns into the funding that we use to support you all. The people are going to help you, and the stipends and so forth. So we're going to ask you to sign an agreement. This is, what you're signing up for. You understand what it is you're doing, what it is you're signing up for. And, we've had just a tremendous number of teams come through the program. We iterate every year. We make adjustments. We make adjustments based on how it went each year. But there are definitely expectations of the program. This is a couple pictures of our shop. Things have moved around a little bit since these pictures were taken. We have a lot more stuff now. We've got more laser cutters, more CNC machines. We got a water jet cutter for metal and glass. So we continue to grow our capabilities and our sort of physical structure to support teams. So we have a lot of the classic things one needs to do prototyping with along the way, and all the hand tools and bandsaw and jigsaw and all that kind of stuff, sanders and so forth, that one would need to do this. Here's what you get. And I see we have some questions. We'll get to them in 1 second. So you get shop access and you get access to Rev. You're going to get all the workshops and the mentorship, the technical support, the prototyping stipend, and we'll work with you to sort of help build out a schedule that makes sense for what you're trying to do. Now, we can't bend this program so much, that if you show up and say, I'm ready to start making 1,000 units a week, well, that's not what we do. That's something we do in our manufacturing program. Likewise, if you show up and say, well, I have no idea, I need to come and explore what market I might like to go into, that's too early. You have an idea, you found a need, you think you've identified something that could use some solving, a physical product may do it, maybe you've done a little bit of prototyping, maybe you've just done some sketching, maybe you've done a little bit of work in class. this is a program to move things along. It's open to anybody, not just students, not just Cornellians. We've had people come from all over the country and all over America and in several other countries also to be part of this program. This is how you apply. And I want to say one other thing, a couple things. So as I said, we don't charge. We also do not take any IP or equity. So you don't have to give up any equity in your company to us. And many teams that come here aren't even a company yet, but we don't take any equity stake in your company. We do not own your intellectual property. You own your intellectual property. Cornell does not own it. And as I said, if you get in, you'll even be entitled to a stipend. There's some rules about how that gets deployed and how much it is and so forth, but that's the sort of bulk of it. So I'm going to pop up the Q&A. Can we recruit a student or an individual would be interested to join our project? If we can't have a current team member come to Ithaca since we are already in need of additional team members, I was wondering if this could be a possibility we can explore. So we need the leadership here. You're more than welcome. You were more than welcome to recruit students. And we've had a few teams over the years that have recruited multiple students. And it was a great experience for the team. And it was a great experience for the students. You know, often it was engineering students and they got some practice. What we can't have is, you know, you recruit a student to be your proxy here, who's not part, you know, really part of the team. We need the leadership of the team here. So we understand not everyone can come to Ithaca. That's just a requirement of how we do it. But the people here, you know, need to be the leadership, if you will, of the team. We just know this from experience. But if you want, within that, if you want to recruit students to be part of your team, yeah, that's worked out very well for some companies, and it's up to you if you know what your relationship with them looks like. There's some places we could maybe mention where you can, do some advertising. Okay. I see some stuff in the chat. Oh, that's Maya. Okay. Okay. So we would love, if you're interested in this at all, and then we'll take more questions. If you're interested in this at all, we really encourage you to submit before February 16th for early admission. We're going to do admission in 2 phases. The teams that apply before February 16th, we're going to do an admission phase and get them in the door if they're eligible. And then we'll have a second, so a number of slots will get taken by from that first cohort. And then, there'll be a second phase where we'll do another admission group. But, the sooner you apply, the sooner we can interview, the sooner we can chat, and get you in the right place. So we're anxious to meet you, and don't overthink it. The application isn't very hard. It's not very cumbersome. It's actually quite straightforward. And if it looks good, as long as it makes sense to us, we will definitely have a meeting with you and sort of figure out what next steps might look like. So if there's more questions, so I'm gonna just jump to that. Okay. Will there be an interaction between the biomedical component at Rev and the tech center in NYC with the medical school? What background will the advisors have? So hey Jeff, good to see you. We're sort of working on our relationship with exactly what it'll look like with Cornell Weill, so I want to be very transparent. So some of our advisors have medical backgrounds. So we have a new advisor, Julie Eagle, who's got a biomedical background. Greg Ray's got a biomedical background. Lee Jang's got a biomedical background. So we have some advisors who have that. Now that's a broad scope. But then I actually have a meeting coming up next week with the folks from Weill, what that relationship, and they may have some teams that are coming up to participate in that program also. Peter asked, what is the manufacturing program? Well, that'll be a different info session, Peter, but very quickly, that is for folks who've got a company, they've probably raised funding, they have a very sophisticated engineering prototype, and they're now ready to take that through all of the steps required to identify contract manufacturers, the processes you're going to use, and ultimately get it out the door. That's a year-long program. It'll kick off in the late fall. We run it every year. It'll kick off this year. I can't remember, but somewhere in this October, November timeframe. And that's for companies that are companies, got a team, probably someone, if not a few, are full-time. And you're now ready to start looking at how you can make many of something. Not necessarily hundreds of thousands, but more than single prototypes. So thanks. It's a good question. What else could we answer? Other folks? Happy to answer now or after you apply. Nobody? Come on. Oh, we got another one. Peter, have you worked with products in the construction sector? Sorta. There was a fella a couple years ago. Actually over the years, a few. There was someone doing something, I'm gonna say in proximity, sort of proximity management, so people don't end up getting too close to dangerous things. We had someone else working in sort of the data management space using a device in a construction area. Our expertise, we have two sets of expertise. Our expertise is business model, we can apply that very broadly because the way you figure out who is your customer, what are they looking for, how do they buy, how do they learn, all of the things around the business model, that is somewhat portable across lots of spaces. And, right now I'm literally doing this in another program called iCore, where there's 24 teams, like in 24 totally different areas. Our other expertise is around building prototypes, helping you with the engineering, the mechanical, the electrical, the sort of physical aspect of it. So you're going to know more about the construction sector than we know, probably. Unless by fluke, one of our, people knows about it. There's a very good chance you'll know more about it, but we're still going to be able to help you. So I'm glad you asked that question, Peter. That's a very good question. Oh. No, the submission of an application is not a binding agreement. It's an expression of interest. We'll chat with you. Look, when we make you an offer and you accept the offer, know that you're taking a space that someone else isn't going to get. So at that point, if it gets to the point where you accept an offer, it would be very disappointing if you pulled out on the last day before the program started because you took someone else's spot. But right now, nope. Apply. Let's talk. See if it makes sense, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'll jump in on that too. So the steps in the process: application goes in. We set up an interview. You either talk with either Ken or I. You go through the interview process. If you get admitted, you would get all of the welcome information about the program, what the expectations are. You'd have time to figure out housing and how that would all work logistically. And then if you sign the participant agreement, we're assuming that you've locked in that spot. So you have a couple of steps there along the way to ask questions. And then once you've locked in that spot, that's where, to Ken's point, if you pull out after that, you've taken someone's spot. So that's roughly the process, but you get a lot of information from us along the way, and it's right up until everybody's on the same board of, yes, I am accepting my spot in the program, that it becomes an agreement between us. And that's also why we have the early admission, so that if you want to be admitted early and have time, you're out of the area, you need to relocate, you have an extra window there. You don't have to wait until April 1 to try and figure that
out. Peter, we've taken for-profits, nonprofits. We take early stage companies, so we've taken companies that have will never be a for-profit. They're nonprofits, maybe their own customers are NGOs. As a matter of fact, one of those people's on the call. One of those people is right on the call with an idea that he was doing in a previous program. And we're not overly obsessed at this point about market size. We want there to be more than one customer, but we're not necessarily looking for things where there's millions of customers or tens of thousands or even thousands of customers necessarily. What we're looking for is like really well identified opportunity. There's a problem, there's people looking to solve it, there's something that's preventing them from doing their job safely or at all. So no, we're good with pretty broad-based broad-based opportunities. and it's, again, something we'll talk about in the interview, but yeah, no problem at all if it's a, it doesn't have to be a for-profit, not-for-profit, a B Corp, all those kind of things. Yeah. Yeah. Who else? Well, we hope to see some applications. We've already started to receive many, so that process is kicked off. Not to try and scare anybody, but we're already looking at applications. We've already started the interview process. So the sooner you get your application in for the first cutoff, the better. And then we will have another round, but then spots may get tight. And last year's spots got very tight by the time we got to the end. So we only have so much room here, and we only have so much funding, so we can only take so many companies. All right. Well, if there are not other questions, I don't know, Deanna, is there anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I mean, generally speaking, I think the advice that I like to give is if you have an idea, you think you're interested, apply. It's a short application. It gives you a chance to get into the pipeline here, and we'll always have a conversation. So looking forward to seeing some applications come in from you all.
Likewise. All right. I'll hang around for just a couple more minutes if anybody has a question. Otherwise, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it. Hope this is interesting to you. And please help us get the word out. So often our experience has been, folks like you know other people like you. So tell them about our program. Share the link and see if they're interested. But we would appreciate any support in helping recruit.